All right. Welcome to another episode of The Beard and the Bookie. There he is, the man with a large beard and a very white room, the beard himself, Mr. Josh Hiltner. And I am here with the Wi Fi that appears to be working for the moment. I am the Bookie, Dan Siegel. And after much anger in the chat room, we have officially started. So here we are. As always, you guys can ask questions or bitch, piss, and moan in the chat room, whatever the hell you guys want to do. And I'll respond to it when I get to it, basically. Yeah, that's for you, Carl, who bitched that we didn't get to your garbage quick enough last week. So let's start with this. I have to start with ESPN looking like an idiot because I've been saying for, 5 years now that people need to stop looking at ESPN like they looked at it when we were growing up. ESPN isn't that anymore. Like ESPN isn't the go-to for sports. Like when you and me were growing up, we watched Sports Center because that was how we consumed sports. It wasn't everywhere like it is today. Like the internet wasn't what it is today. We didn't have, Direct TV and NFL Ticket and NFL Network and everything else. So ESPN was your funnel and was your be all end all for sports. It's not that anymore. And ESPN is more like a sieve of garbage anymore. I've got Stephen A talking about sports he doesn't know. Max Kellerman, who's a boxing guy, trying to talk about sports he doesn't know. I mean, that is like the number one show on ESPN at this point, which tells you all you need to know. So, yeah, taking ESPN, as your number one entity is probably not the best idea if that's the road you're going down in life. But just in case you weren't sure, ESPN proved themselves for being the idiots that they are by showing a high school football game this week that supposedly had top recruits that apparently didn't. So Bishop Sycamore is this school, and they had a 58-0, a real barn burner. I'm sure the casinos loved having this on if they did. Lost to IMG Academy, another powerhouse in the world. So ESPN announcers said that Bishop Sycamore told the network the team had multiple top recruits. ESPN cannot verify that. That probably should have been a sign you shouldn't go through with this. They did anyway. Let's see here. Was there a website? It takes you to a bare page with a nondescript picture of a football player and the message, it seems we can't find what you're looking for. Again, the crack ESPN researchers or PR people that dug into this before saying, you know what, we should probably put this on air. Crack team. I'm sure they're getting paid big, big bucks. And then to top it all off, the coach who was fired today has outstanding warrants for his arrest. I feel like this is the Mighty Ducks on a higher level.
Kind of offended by that statement, honestly. Mighty Ducks, as you know, takes place in Minnesota, so that's rude. Gordon Bombay was a drunk driver, but he was also a lawyer, okay? So he didn't have outstanding warrants. He just had to coach the team as, civil service. That's what we do here in Minnesota because we're nice people. What Bishop Sycamore did is completely different and disgusting. Kind of to hit on a couple points with it, though. So Bishop Sycamore doesn't even exist. I tried looking up who Bishop Sycamore was. There is no such bishop, so that alone should have been enough information and red flags for ESPN to be like, no, I don't think this is legit. They claim to have multiple Division I recruits on this team. They definitely didn't. They also played a game 2 days before that game. And IMG Academy played them last year as well. So they are apparently like one of these online charter schools, apparently based out of Ohio, but they play in the Texas school system. So it's really, really weird on every level. And the fact that we all got conned into watching this it gave us something to talk about today. So good PR for this. And it's a crazy story right at the beginning of football season. So I have high hopes for the rest of the year. But I just don't understand how something like this gets past somebody like ESPN. I think it really shows that, they're just not who they used to be. Like you said, when we were growing up, I could watch ESPN and it would just be the same highlights every half hour. Maybe different sports anchors talking about it, but the same highlights. And I was always entertained. I never felt bad about watching it. Now I can't watch 90% of it because it has nothing to do with actual sports. There's nothing on there that actually interests me. So that's crazy. I guess that's what they get for being who they are and the way that they've acted, getting rid of some of the people they've gotten rid of. But that's crazy. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the story as it continues because it's going to be a train wreck, man.
First off, how do you trust a network that got rid of hockey? ESPN. When we grew up, ESPN was like the be all end all of hockey. Okay, you had the theme music, you had Gary Thorne. Okay, it was the epicenter of hockey. Then they got rid of it. They didn't even they barely acknowledged that hockey is a sport on ESPN, and I'm supposed to trust them? Please get away from me. I did find one other thing funny about this Sycamore High situation, or Bishop Sycamore, excuse me. On August 21st, they launched a GoFundMe seeking $20,000 to fund its football team. You want to guess how much the GoFundMe raised?
Oh, I hope it's like $50. It's got to be something low.
Unfortunately, it's slightly higher.
Okay.
$140 before it stopped. So
would have been better if it was 60.
I want to meet the people that I want to meet the people who pledged the $140.
Probably the parents. That was their way of paying for their kids to play. They had to donate to the GoFundMe.
I thought it was ESPN themselves.
Could have been. And the reason why they got rid of hockey is because Barry Melrose embarrassed them when he got an actual coaching gig. So they decided to distance themselves completely and no longer talk about hockey. So maybe that's what we'll see with high school sports on ESPN now. Who knows? So
Did coach Wayne Gretzky. You gotta give him that.
I give Barry Melrose all the credit in the world. He was a stand-up guy. ESPN shafted him.
Well, ESPN is a shaft, so
it's true. It's true.
Anyways, speaking of Bishop Sycamores, we occasionally do segments on this show about the people that we do various things with. So Bishop Sycamore has now taken on a life of its own as it has been attached to somebody that we know well, a man who claims to be a scout and scouts nothing. But here's why I'm going down this road. Okay, I'm not going to bash his scouting abilities. We do that enough. I don't need to waste time on the show about it.
All right.
He is. You know how I think this is something that everybody can get behind. There's always that one guy in the group that wants to run everything but can't run anything. That is who we're talking about. Whether it is fantasy leagues, whether it is online leagues, whether it's his personal life, it all goes to shit.
Yeah. Pretty accurate. He can't have nice things, that's for sure.
This is a guy sending us 100 messages last night about Madden.
Hey, Madden is trash, dude. I understand his frustration. I get it, but I could really just destroy him on here and put it out for the internet, but I'm going to let you continue with this rant because I'm thoroughly enjoying somebody else bashing him for once. I mean, I've pretty much retired him at this point, so feel free to just rail on him.
But here's my thing. Madden is trash. I know Madden is trash. You know Madden is trash. He knows Madden is trash. I wasn't the one who was like, you know what? The early release, the day one, let me go out and get it immediately. I know it's trash. I'm not doing it. I want no part of it.
I mean, I did buy it.
Yet here he is, like the same kid with PTSD who has to go to the store every year and buy the new Madden and then bitch about it.
Yeah. Well, and I told him this earlier. Okay. So for those of you that don't know, this individual every year buys Madden. Him and I have purchased Madden every single year since about 2010 when we met. And it's the one game that we play together consistently every single year. This man has killed more Madden leagues than, I don't know, he has failed marriages. And that's a lot. Trust me. And so he gets on there today after purchasing it and decides that he wants to complain up and down about how bad franchise mode is. And I'm aware. I bought the game. I don't thoroughly enjoy all the glitches with it right now either. But this is karma, okay? This is what he gets for ruining every single franchise league that I have created the last 5 years. This is what he gets. I hope he's happy, and I hope his misery continues for at least until the next one comes out. Then we can start this process over again.
I think that we have, even though we're a new show, you and I listen to my old show. So one of our, I'll call him listeners. I think he might listen. We'll see. He has, for I'd say over a year, asked me to let the men we're talking about on the show. I almost feel like at this point I'm obligated to do that.
It would probably be our highest
scouting session.
I don't know
if I would agree with that, but it would be interesting.
Let's call it a.
We'd get the most feedback on it. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a good post-game review. We could just talk about how every scouting prediction he's ever had, and we can pull his resumes off of the websites that he works for. Allegedly works for. I was a paid writer once too. I thought it was cool for about 5 minutes. Yeah, we definitely could have him on here and just break down every dumb thing that he's done and said. Be like a wasted hour and a half of our lives, but we definitely get some ratings on it. Be interesting for sure. I'd rather talk to sane people, though.
All right, getting to actual real life things. Ben Simmons today, through his whatever, said that he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia anymore. Apparently, Ben Simmons hasn't realized that Philadelphia doesn't want Ben Simmons anymore. The issue here is Daryl Morey's ridiculous asking price for a guy who can't shoot beyond 5 feet. I wouldn't give 3 firsts and 2 seconds for many people in the NBA as it is, let alone. Interesting thing I saw was for you, Josh, was Patrick Beverley, who is a new member there to your Timberwolves, reacted to a tweet that said, put Ben with Towns and Edwards, and you've got a contender. And Beverly backed that up. So I see and hear a lot of would not want Ben Simmons anywhere near my damn team. So how are you feeling about the idea of Ben Simmons potentially becoming a Timberwolf and be willing to accept them pay to get Ben Simmons?
I mean, the way I look at it, can we really get any worse? We haven't been great the last decade. We've had 1, maybe 2 good seasons. I don't necessarily want him, but he is young enough that maybe he could turn it around. I have zero faith in that. I don't really want him. I don't see a need for him. With Patrick Beverley and Towns, it would be interesting to see what could be done there. I don't think Simmons is a good fit for us. I don't think he has the right play style. I don't like a lot of things about him. I feel like he's just not happy with what he's getting in Philly. The Timberwolves are also not the team that's going to make that kind of deal and offer something like that up, especially with as high a picks as we get. Unless we did like some protected pick exchange, we could potentially do something. I can't even fathom a deal that I would be comfortable with giving for him because I don't really see an upside. I don't see a downside necessarily to bringing him in, but there's no upside for me. So, and you know how stingy I am when it comes to trades. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe
it's funny because
conditional.
reportedly Simmons.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. To play for 3 teams. The Wolves, shockingly, not one of them. He really went out on a limb with the 3 teams. He would like to play for the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Warriors. And my thing is, the Clippers are bad. The Clippers are a circus enough without him. The Warriors have a Ben Simmons and Draymond already. And the Lakers don't like anybody under the age of 35. So where does Ben think he's ending up in that triangle?
Out of those 3, the Clippers are the only one probably crazy enough to do something. I mean, that's just the Clipper way. So of those 3, if he really wants to be in California, Clippers is his best bet. It's also probably the worst of the 3 that he could go to, because he's not going to get the result that he wants out of it. But I'd be okay with it. Like, you want to go from the 76ers to the Clippers? Hats off, man. You're going to literally the same team. There's nothing different. You have a couple different names, a couple different levels of talent, but dude, you're not going to make it any further with the Clippers than you did with the Sixers. No way.
The Sixers and Clippers seem to be like mirror images of each other. Like all the hype in the world, get to the playoffs, and then find a second round exit. Like hopes and dreams. Almost immediately. Oh, the other thing we want to talk about basketball-wise, I guess, a lot of people, but I found it interesting, and that and there were a lot of agents applauding Nerlens Noel for doing this. Basically, Nerlens Noel was saying that Rich Paul cost him money in free agency, and apparently the Sixers wanted him back at some point. Paul didn't relay that to him, and a bunch of other things. More from the legal aspect of, as you know, people think that this, I think agents and others are hoping that this might change the way that, the player agent relationship is handled in the NBA and, other things. But How in the world does Nerlens Noel prove that Rich Paul called? Does he say, "Oh, well, the Sixers wanted me back, but Rich Paul didn't"? What? Because Brett Brown told you 3 weeks later oh, I would have liked to had you back. Like, did he have offers sitting on the table that he has contracts and that Rich Paul said, "Hey, don't sign this. I can get you more." I mean, and at the end of the day, the agent can say whatever he wants. But isn't it ultimately on Nerlens Noel to say yes, no?
You're absolutely right on this. I was reading about it earlier today and looking at it from a legal standpoint. It's hard to prove. You know, just like you said, like the owner can come back and say, like, I really wanted you back. Like, I'm sorry we couldn't make it work out. And he could be like, I didn't even know that you offered. And that's something that he needs to talk to the agent about. And if his agent isn't relaying that, that's on their relationship. Hopefully the bright side and the thing that comes out of this is we start seeing better player agent relationships, not just in the NBA, because this happens in every major sport. You see this in the MLB, you see this in the NFL. These agents will take deals that they feel are the best deals where they're making money, but also best deals for their players. But they may not always have the player's best interest at heart when they're making these deals. They're just after the dollars and cents or whatever motivations that they have. So I definitely applaud the move. Like you can definitely do something with it, and it should help change the game. And hopefully college athletes are looking at this with the NIL, because as soon as they're able to get management and start working these deals, they know that they need to kind of keep an eye on this because it's happening to professionals right now. Legally, though, he has to be able to show actual evidence that the information he's being told by third parties is true. I mean, that's hearsay. You can't base any lawsuit on hearsay. So I don't know what actual evidence he has, but if he has it, it could be, quite damning for the agent and very beneficial for him. But I think the most powerful message and piece of this is just that this is being called out, and we're seeing somebody fight against this and fight back when an agent's doing something that they don't like. People fire agents all the time, and we don't normally hear about the why. This is the first time we're seeing an actual lawsuit in quite some time. So it's interesting. It'll play out. I'm sure it's probably going to end up settling out of court, most likely. But hopefully this is kind of that game changer for the up-and-comers and the rest of the league, where they start paying a little bit more attention to what's going on outside of just the game.
The other big hole in his case was I forget exactly the sequence of events, but I'm pretty sure he to sign a big deal, and his agent said, "No, we'll take a 1 year," and he ended up getting hurt, which obviously then, if that is the case, then all that is true. Yes, no to signing the long-term deal, and he ultimately didn't replace his agent. And two, okay, what is the agent supposed to do about the fact that you got hurt? Okay, if you get hurt, yeah, no less you are, a top 5 NBA player, nobody's signing you to a multi-year big money deal coming off an injury. Okay, Nerlens Noel is the sixth man. The fact that anybody was going to throw multi-years of ball for you being stupid and then getting hurt.
It's crazy. I mean, like I said, he did a lot of it to himself, so we'll see where it goes.
Do you have anything else that before we move on?
No, I'm very excited for our next topic, though. Please Please get to thumbs down.
All right. So from the from the mouths over here in the chat. The thumbs down is coming later. The thumbs down is a long, very angry, drawn out, yelling thing that I will be doing later. So I need time for that. No, the chat heads over here want us to discuss something and think that they won't. Okay, they're calling. Okay, I feel that to prove that I am a vast array of knowledge. So, Josh, let's talk some soccer. Let's talk some EPL. Let's talk some transfer day. Let's talk about it all.
All right. Whose team do you want to start with?
Manchester, obviously, they get Ronaldo. They want to show, here's what I want to ask first. Okay. Ronaldo, obviously, the rumor for a while was he was going to go to Man City. And then ultimately, it was said at Man U. There are some people. We'll take a baseball analogy here. Like if you play for the Cubs for 10 years, they go, I was a Cub for 10 years. I can't. Was it ultimately that Man City withdrew, or that ultimately Ronaldo went? I was at Man City for 10 years. I was at Man U for 10 years. I can't play at Man City. I can't.
Well, Ronaldo did come out today and say that he was going back to Man U for Sir Alex Ferguson. So I think that did play on him. He's like, I want to get out of Juventus. I want to go back to the EPL. I want to go back home. That's where I played the most time. That's where I played at my best. And I'm sure initially Man City was looking at him like, hey, we'll take you for a couple of years. Like, come on over. We'll make this work. And I think that he just kind of got cold feet. He may have been excited about the offer. And then I think that as soon as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Man U kind of stepped up and said, hey, if you want to come back home. He was kind of like, yeah, no, I'd rather do that than play at Man City. So I think it was mostly his decision. And Man City just pulled out because they were like, we don't have a chance. I'm not thrilled with the deal, though. I mean, it's nice to have Ronaldo back in the twilight of his career, but he hasn't played well in 3 years. Like, this is not the Ronaldo this isn't the Ronaldo that played 10 years for Man United. This is the Ronaldo that's just hanging on. So, I don't know. I'm happy to have him back, but I'm not super excited. I don't think he's going to put up. He might outmatch Cavani, but he's not going to play better than Fernandes or Rashford. He's not better than those guys anymore. So, what role he has and how he performs, I'm interested to see, but I don't necessarily know that he was worth the money we spent. Bob, I'm gonna need you to say that all over again because I didn't catch a word
And
of
then
it.
there's I'm going to call it the PSG mess, because PSG obviously goes and makes the headline, who, for whatever reason, they're not starting. Okay. Maybe you can explain that to me. But they're not starting Lionel after getting him. And then, up until transfer day, they were throwing out every big name in soccer, and they didn't get anybody.
Well, you don't start
Yeah.
Lionel Messi at PSG. You don't start
Gotcha.
him there when you still have you don't start Messi when you still have Mbappe and when you still have Neymar. You're not going to start him over those two. You're not.
Makes no sense. And then, transfer day comes along. They're talking Mbappe, they're talking Lanowski, they're talking any big name for anybody who knows even an ounce of soccer. And they didn't get anybody.
It doesn't always work out that way. I mean, what did Mbappe want? He wanted 200 million, something like that. Some teams just don't have the transfer budget or don't want to spend that on just the one guy. Now, if it is Mbappe, I can tell you in FIFA that I ended up paying 285 million to get him on my team. So you kind of got to shell out if you want those bigger guys. But I think that they didn't necessarily need anything. I mean, they offloaded some big pieces, but I don't know. Maybe they've got some development that they've got some guys coming up that'll play in and fill pretty well, where they didn't have to make any major moves. They didn't have to build anything up. So it's all possible. It's just a matter of, like, hey, this time around it didn't work out. For whatever reason, players didn't want to play there. So we just kind of have to live with it sometimes, take those losses. It is definitely a loss for them, but at the end of the day, can't be too mad. I'm sure the owners are okay with not spending that money if they weren't getting who they wanted, and they clearly weren't willing to pay that much if Mbappe only had a $200 million asking price and is still at PSG. So they didn't want it bad enough. Okay, so Dan looks like he's still having some issues here. Just tried reaching out to him. So let's see. You know what? We're talking EPL, and we're going to get back to EPL as soon as Dan gets here. I'm going to talk to you about two things because I told you I was going to slip in some MMA this week, so I'm going to do it. Currently, right now, Dana White's Contender Series is going on. It's back. It's the first episode. So, very exciting news there. We just finished the most recent season of The Ultimate Fighter. Pretty good season. Not anything surprising. Didn't have anybody that looked crazy good coming out of it. But, The Ultimate Fighter hasn't been good in 15 years. And I'm saying that as my friend was on Tough 28. So interesting to see Contender Series come back. It seems like this is the actual farm system for MMA now. A lot of these guys have gotten contracts and come in. I didn't get a chance to look at the fight card because we're doing this, but I'm going to watch it directly after. Probably going to have some news and notes on that. Topic I am going to talk about here is one that's a little painful for me. But let's talk about Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley quick before Dan gets back and makes me feel bad about it. Dan told me that this fight was rigged and that it was a work probably about a week ago because I was adamant that Tyron Woodley was going to just knock Jake Paul out, wasn't going to take long. As soon as he felt him out, it was going to be over. And we saw that in the fourth round. He really put it on him, had him up against the ropes. Granted, I did not buy that pay-per-view. Anyone who did buy that pay-per-view should feel bad. Anybody who streamed it should have saved their time and watched something else. But I caught the highlights. So it looked like in that fourth round, he was about to knock him out of the ring completely. Had him on the ropes. Looked like he was going to fall over, couldn't hardly stand. And he just stopped. This is typical Tyron Woodley, though. I mean, Tyron Woodley hasn't been able to pull the trigger in a very long time. I mean, you look at some of his fights when he was first starting to defend his title, when he fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Guy would turn it on for 30 seconds at a time, and the rest of the time would just stay back, dance around, move, wouldn't engage. He literally had the least amount of strikes thrown in a title fight against Damian Maia. The guy's never been known to be a flashy or active fighter. So you put him in there with a guy like Jake Paul, where he doesn't already like to engage as it is. When he does engage, it's in spurts, and then he just completely stops and goes back to neutral, essentially. He doesn't know how to keep his foot on the gas more. And granted, 3 years ago, he was, welterweight champion of the world. The guy's not a boxer. He's still a wrestler. People tend to forget that. He was a wrestler, just like Ben Askren, just like Jake Paul even. So he had some knockout power. He was great on his feet, knew how to stand up. Everything was always good. Guy doesn't engage. He's not even really a counterpuncher. And you can't wrestle him, so you couldn't put him on the ground and just ground and pound him. It was a terrible fight. I told all of my friend group and our friends, I was like, if this goes the distance, it's going Jake Paul. Honestly, was kind of surprised it went split decision. I think Showtime may have worked out a little bit just to get people talking about a potential rematch. I don't think you need a rematch. I don't think there should be a rematch. And I think I saw on Twitter today, Jake Paul said that he is going to, or he is a retired boxer now. He's not going to box anymore. I think that's because he actually felt some power from somebody, and he actually got hurt in that fight. I think that Woodley actually put a beating on him and didn't make it fun. So he stopped having fun about halfway through that fight. That tells me everything that I need to know about Jake Paul as a boxer, though. I honestly think his brother, if anybody, even though he fought Floyd Mayweather, which I'm not even going to get started on that, but Logan probably is the better of the two when it comes to actual boxing. Jake has the wins, though, but Logan's fighting real fighters. Other than KSI. KSI is not a real fighter, but he fought Floyd Mayweather. He fought the best boxer to ever do it at a higher weight class. Floyd didn't look great. Logan didn't look great. That fight was a sham. But Jake was always just in it, fighting people that he felt like he could beat. He didn't really have a challenge. He didn't fight an actual boxer. So Jake retiring from boxing, totally fine with it. He's going to go run his mouth and make millions on YouTube. He doesn't need boxing. He can say that he's fought professional fights and has a winning record, an undefeated record. He can do whatever he needs to. He can go back and start doing whatever he decides to do next. Totally fine with all of that. The one thing that does need to come out of this, though, is MMA fighters need to stay away from boxing unless they were boxers beforehand. I'm tired of this. I'm not going to pay another dime to watch an MMA fighter fight a boxer. And if two MMA fighters want to box each other, just do it keep it in MMA. We have stand-up wars in MMA all the time. You don't have to go over to boxing. I get it that that's where the money is. They can make more money in boxing because of the way the promotions and the pay-per-views were all set up. no one's going to watch it. Well, people are going to watch it, but the actual fans don't want to see it. I don't want to see Anderson Silva box Tito Ortiz. I don't want to see Vitor Belfort fight Oscar De La Hoya. I don't care. And I think most mixed martial arts fans don't care either. So it's just a matter of these guys are trying to get a paycheck. Maybe Dana White, maybe Scott Coker, maybe these guys will start paying them a little bit more, hopefully. I mean, that would be one way to stop this madness. I think Dana White's only done that once, and he did it with Chuck Liddell. He basically paid Chuck Liddell to retire so that he wouldn't keep taking beatings. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens in that space. Very disappointed, seeing as it is my favorite sport. Should have seen it coming. Didn't. That's my bad. But what can you do? One other thing I want to talk about that we haven't brought up on this show before, but it is quickly becoming my new favorite sport, is Formula One. There was a race on Sunday. Well, if you can call it a race. For those of you that don't follow Formula One, that is the auto racing that mainly takes place in Europe, similar to American IndyCar. They're kind of rival competitors. If you ask me, IndyCar is kind of so-so. They don't really promote it well. It's not that fun to watch for the most part. And Formula One has just, it's got more interesting sponsors. It's got more interesting cars. It's got more interesting drivers. You have the greatest of all time in that sport right now in Lewis Hamilton racing. And for the first time in, well, probably since 2014, we have an actual contender for the title there. Lewis Hamilton has won 7 years in a row. Currently, you have Max Verstappen with Red Bull team and Lewis Hamilton with the Mercedes team battling it out for the title there. I think Lewis Hamilton has a 3-point lead on Max Verstappen. I could get into the point system, but I'm going to spare you those details. The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because there was a race on Sunday in Belgium at Spa. And so these races, you normally have a 4-hour window or 3-hour window to actually start the race, and 4 hours total to get the race completed. Races are built to be 2 hours long, okay, from start to finish. They try and get you about 2 hours worth of actual racing in. So at Belgium, there was some pretty heavy rain coming down at the start. So they delayed the race. There was one driver that spun out, had a accident on track, Sergio Perez, and he had crashed into the barriers. So they delayed the race, hoping that there would be a break in the weather so that they could get the cars up to speed, get clear the water off the track, get some actual racing in, make it a competition, get some points on the board, and have a legitimate race. Well, that wasn't to be. So what ended up happening is we had a 3-hour delay because the rain never let up. Rain never stopped. So 3 hours go by, and I am just listening to commentators because I'm hoping that there's going to be a race. But I'm listening to commentators talk about absolutely nothing for 3 hours. And with about 10 minutes left for them to actually start the race or everything was going to be called off, they decide that they're going to race. Weather hasn't changed any. There's zero visibility. These guys can't see the car in front of them. They can barely see the racing lines. They can barely see where all the corners are. It's a nightmare for anybody who's not the lead race, the lead car. And they start the race behind a safety car. So safety car is just literally the car that drives in the front. You probably see it in NASCAR after crashes. Just leads them around for a couple laps. They have to stay behind it. They have to stay at a controlled speed, that whole jazz. So they go out there and they race 2 laps behind this car. And then they call the race off. When they called the race off, they gave everybody within the top 10 half the points that they would have got for full race. The full race would have been about 44, 45 laps for Spa. It's the longest race on the track, so it's the shortest number of laps. So 2 laps got them half points and took up about 4.5 hours of my day. Now, that's on me. I could have watched pretty much anything else. But when you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, U.S., to watch a race, you expect to see a race. What they gave me was 3 hours of basically the Weather Channel with race car drivers playing on their phones and tweeting. Absolute nightmare. And hopefully I don't see it again. It's a bad look for a sport that's trying to get bigger in the U.S. right now. If you haven't watched it on Netflix, they have the Drive to Survive Formula One series. That's what got me into racing. It's actually quite brilliant and really well put together. So I suggest you all check it out if you haven't. I mean, it got me hooked, and I've watched every race this season, and it makes me more excited to watch that show next year. So we'll see how it goes. Now that I'm done with my rants, it looks like the man, Dan Siegel, the bookie, has returned. A little bit darker room, but you're with us again, bro.
Yeah, I went darker. Apparently my computer wants to like the dark. I don't know why, but I'll say at least you can hear me now. So that's a good start.
Absolutely.
All right. So what were you ranting about while I was gone? Let's catch up.
Well, I talked a little MMA because I said I was going to slide that in there. I discussed a certain boxing match that happened on Sunday.
Oh, you mean the boxing match that I told you that Woodley would never win?
First of all, I gave you credit. Okay.
Well, as long as even your dog is applauding that.
Yes, my dog knows where to give credit where credit's due. So she approves, and she can confirm. I also discussed the current situation in Formula One that happened with the race this weekend. So fortunately for you as a man that doesn't follow racing, I spared you those details too.
There you go. You got that all in there while I was gone. Okay, good stuff. All right, so we got all the we got most of the soccer in there for the complainers in the chat. So that's good, and you were able to carry this while I had a malfunction. But we can get to what is important, and that is football.
Yes.
We had week 0 last week. We put some picks on the Twitter, which you were very proud about. I would have, unfortunately, due to my work situation, I wasn't able to throw. I had 2 more picks that I was going to put on there, especially considering the pick that we disagreed on worked in your favor. So I wanted to revalidate myself with a couple of winners, but work situation didn't come out. Of course, both of those would have worked out well, but nevertheless, you were right by taking the points there against Nebraska. Just real quickly, okay? Obviously I was on the Nebraska side. Nebraska did so much to hand that game over. I mean, first off, that punter might be the worst punter in college football, number one. I can kick farther than that kid. Okay? Then, like when I saw the 2 punters, you have possibly the worst punter in all of college football against the guy who is, by definition, the best punter in college football. So there was a vast difference there. All right, Nebraska hands them the first 2 points by the guy catching the ball on the goal line and then proceeding to throw it out like that was legal. I mean, they just did everything they handed them 16 points. 16 points. So Nebraska fully made sure that you would be good on your side of the bet. So congratulations there.
Thank you. I take my win with grace, unlike I did the day it actually happened. It feels good to be undefeated my first time betting, especially against the bookie. So, pretty soon I'm going to be the beard and the bookie if we keep this going. So I'm not going to be too upset. I'm more proud of my Fresno State bet, though. That minus 27.5. You were like, I don't know. I hate that bet. And I was confident the whole time.
Well, hold on. I didn't say I hated it. I said I wasn't in love with laying it for the full game. Had I gotten to the Twitter, as I told you, I said I was more comfortable laying it in the first half, which also cashed easily. I mean, that game was never in doubt. much like the UCLA game I wanted to tell everybody to go bet because that game was never in doubt. But instead of going to Twitter, since I'm here and people can hear me and there's no problems, you and I are going to give the people a pick right now because it's a pick that you and I both agree on.
Yeah.
And that is, let me bring it up here. That's Thursday night. The Ohio State plays Minnesota. And the over-under right now is 63.5. Me and Josh both like the under.
Yeah. I think that it's honestly going to be a close game. What is it minus 18.5 Ohio State in that game?
No,
14, I
14,
think that 14. Okay. Well, if it's 14, then I think that's actually pretty close. But I like the under. I think first game of the year, Minnesota and PJ Fleck are not a bad team. They're not world beaters. They're not Ohio State beaters. I have my future bet of the year is Ohio State plus 11. Like I overall plus 11 wins. They're going to probably end up in the national championship game. They look scary good. So I don't see Minnesota beating them. I do see it as a lower scoring game though. I think they still have to work out a lot of kinks. So I do like the under on that one.
I just feel like the Minnesota, who has the name I'm not going to pronounce right, Emigroff or whatever, the running back, who is really good. I think Minnesota is going to try and run him and kind of try and keep Ohio State off the field as much as possible. Plus, Minnesota's defense is they're not otherworldly, but they are well above average. And let us not forget, this is Ohio State in their first post-Justin Fields World game. So that is, that you've got to suspect that there will be some sort of feeling out process. I'm not fully expecting that offense to come out and click on all cylinders right away necessarily. Again, especially against a well-prepared team such as Minnesota. I expect Ohio State to win the game. I wouldn't necessarily run out and lay the 14. Could they cover it? They easily could, but it's not something I'm comfortable with doing. But I definitely could see this being like a 31-21 type game or something in that area, 35-21, something like that, in which, your spread is a little sweaty, but the under is not. So, but you and me agree on that. So that's one we can give out right there. Another, since we're talking about the Thursday games here, real quickly, let me see. I think this is a Thursday game. I don't remember off the top of my head. Pretty sure it is. Of course, I can't find it now. So, oh no, I lied. It is a Saturday game. So I guess that one I'll save for Twitter. It's a Saturday game.
Okay.
But so week 0, there wasn't too much as far as the big name teams. I mean, you'll get your Clemsons and your Georgias who happen to play each other, your Alabamas, your Notre Dames. You're going to get all of that this weekend. The one big team that did play week 0, who I previously mentioned, was UCLA and Chip Kelly. They got the monkey off their back. That was the first non-conference Chip Kelly win. They did it easily. And this isn't an official play. If it's an official play, it'll go on the Twitter. Again, you can follow us on Twitter, Beard and the Bookie. There you go. I am seriously considering, and it is slowly dropping. This started at 4.5. Now I think it's at 3. I am seriously considering taking UCLA this weekend, getting the points against LSU. Let me explain why. I think that, remember, this is year 3 of the Chip Kelly experience at UCLA. This is very similar to what happened with Oregon. In the first couple of years, you didn't really get it. They weren't there. Chip was still building the program. He's got a lot. That UCLA core is a lot of it is there from last year, so there's not a whole lot of turnover. And I think last week you really saw it was weird. In the first half, you saw a lot of the Chip Kelly that I remember from Oregon. No huddle, fast pace, points whenever they wanted. Boom, 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 boom. The second half was something I didn't expect from Chip Kelly, which was he took his foot off the gas. I remember the Chip Kelly who ran up scores, and didn't care about how bad it looked. And I guess now in the world of the college playoff where style points maybe don't necessarily matter as much, which to me, I feel they matter all as much as they ever did. He took his gas off the pedal and he didn't run it up, which I thought was interesting. But nevertheless, I like what I saw out of UCLA in week 1. Plus, let us not forget, LSU is dealing with the hurricane situation in New Orleans. They are not practicing in New Orleans. They are I forget exactly where they're practicing. I know the Saints are practicing at the Cowboys facility. I forget exactly where LSU is practicing right now, but obviously it's not anywhere close to home. Plus, once they're done, they're going to have to travel all the way to UCLA to play. This game is in UCLA. All right. LSU is not a high-powered offense. Okay. They totally run by their defense and they try and, get good field position and work short fields and things like that. I've been struggling with it all week, and I haven't firmly made up my mind. But I'm really close to pulling the trigger on UCLA this week. I think UCLA not only can cover, but might actually just flat out win the game and put the official stamp on Chip Kelly and UCLA being a threat this season.
It's an interesting thought. I guess I didn't look at it that way. I mean, LSU coming off a championship 2 years ago, completely different team, and we saw that from LSU last year. I think that it's possible, like a minus. What is it? UCLA +3 or -3?
UCLA is getting 3 right now. I think it's 3. I'm going to double check my app, but I believe earlier when I looked at it, it was plus. They were getting 3. That line started at UCLA getting 4.5. Now down to what I believe is 3. But I'm double checking.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like this is a prove-it year for Coach O at LSU. So it could be a close game. Chip Kelly does seem to be in that kind of prime with his new team, new squad. He's getting most of the players that he started recruiting at UCLA some playing time, so he really gets to run his offense. I didn't so much get surprised by him taking his foot off the gas in the second half. I think he kind of learned that, and I think it's maybe a little bit of maturity coming from him now. And I think that's what makes him dangerous in the LSU game is maybe he actually learned something from his time in the NFL. He's watching what some of these other coaches in the NCAA are doing. I mean, Nick Saban is notorious for taking his foot off the gas. He'll get his team up by 40, 50 points in the first half and just be like, I don't necessarily want you to score in the second half, but if you do, okay, we're not trying to anymore. So I think that Chip Kelly is maybe like, let's not show the entire offense. Let's not push the pace. Let's show that there are levels to this game and give people something else to prep for. Make them think a little bit more. Like make them see that there's a little bit more strategy going on here. So that piece of what Chip Kelly is doing at UCLA is very intriguing to me. It's hard to say that UCLA is going to contend with LSU, but I can see it. If it's a +3, I like that. That's a solid bet too if that's what it is. Even at +4, I'm not mad at it.
It's 3. I confirmed.
It's 3. Okay, perfect. Yeah, at 3, I don't think that's a bad bet. Anything higher than that, I would probably take LSU. But at 3, yeah, you're pretty close.
All right, I'm going to make you very happy here. We're going to talk about Alabama.
Yay!
Yeah. Not something I love doing, especially with you, but nevertheless. So Alabama is playing Miami on Saturday, 3:30. The line for the game is 18.5. I'm sure you being the homer that you are, you have no issue laying 18.5 against the Canes in Miami. I'm going to take a different approach to this, much like the approach I took last week when you were ready to lay the 27.5 with Fresno. I'm looking at Bama first half because you said it yourself. Saban likes to take his foot off the gas. Okay? Taking your foot off the gas leads to backdoor covers, and no better likes the backdoor cover. What Saban will not do and is not afraid to do is run it up in the first half. And the line in the first half is 10.5. And for me to think that Bama can't be up 2 touchdowns by the end of the first half against a Miami team that has all sort of issues. I mean, here's for Miami, and God, I don't want to do this because I feel like all I'm doing is feeding your ego doing this right now. But for Miami to have any chance of even hanging in this game against Alabama, De'Ara King would finally have to live up to his own hype. I've been hearing about De'Ara King for 3 years. I mean, at one point, De'Ara King was a Heisman hopeful. Okay, De'Ara King, the only chance De'Ara King has of getting close to the Heisman is if he finds the one that they won't give back to Reggie Bush. Okay, so De'Ara King doesn't scare me. The Miami defense certainly doesn't scare me. I hope they don't have that stupid turnover chain that they had a few years ago. I hope they got rid of that. That thing made me want to vomit. But I'll gladly lay 10.5 first half with Alabama. That I'm not concerned with at all.
See, you got to be careful, though. And this is the thing with Alabama that drives me absolutely insane. Saban likes to take his foot off the gas, but Alabama's also a notorious one-half team. In most games in the regular season, it's not always the first half. Sometimes they'll come out and put up 10 points in the first half, and then they'll come out in the second half and put 50. So I guess it's a risk still, but I can understand.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. I've watched enough Bama to know that Bama, at times seems like they're sleepwalking. But here's why I don't expect it here. Number one, okay, despite Miami being home, having the crowd, I think all that's going to do is fuel Bama a little more. And number two, this isn't game 4 of the year. This is game 1. Saban has been looking at this all summer. He's had his players looking at this all summer. I don't expect them to come out and struggle right away. I expect them to come out and take that crowd out of it almost immediately. So, yeah, I'm not even blinking at the first half when it comes to that. Here, you got something else before I?
Yeah, just one thing on that, and you kind of brought it up. I was just looking at when's the last time that Alabama actually struggled in the first game of the year, because they are notorious for taking on bigger name teams. Like we played USC 2 years in a row at neutral sites. This is the first time that I think we're giving up. We're going to the actual away team school in quite a while. So neutral site games, we beat the brakes off of USC. So I think that we always come out hot and kind of make that statement early on, because Bama was getting flack for a couple years in the BCS era about playing some bum teams like everybody else does. They want to go out there, beat an easy team, and just walk through the rest of their season with kind of a cakewalk schedule. Playing Miami this year, it is a bit of a change. So playing in Miami is going to be interesting to see what happens there. But this team, even with Bryce Young starting, not really having any playing time last year with Mac Jones in there, it's going to be interesting. I could see a rocky first quarter. I think second quarter they come out big. And I'll probably post my official bets. I'm going to bet on that game. For sure I'm going to have bets out on that game. I think I am going to lay the 18.5, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to bet the over on the score total, just as kind of a backup just in case the 18.5 doesn't cover. I definitely think it's going over 61. I think that was what they said. 61 for the over-under. So I would bet the over on 61, bet the 18.5, but the 61 over on 61 would potentially cover the 18.5 if they do take their foot off the gas after a big first half. If they have a slow first half, they're not slowing down in the second half, and I think both will hit. If they have a big first half, the over will hit. 18.5 might not. So we'll see.
Just quickly here, finishing up on the Alabama, because I don't want to talk about Alabama too much and get your head to just explode. Earlier in our group, somebody put up a thing that Field Yates had posted. Said, talking about the 2018 Alabama roster. And, it talks about there were 2 future first-round picks at running back with Jacobs. There's 4 future first-round wide receivers, Judy, Ruggs, Waddle, Smith. 4 other first-round picks in Wills, Leatherwood, Surtain, and Williams. But here's the thing that I made mention to that confused people in our group, so I want to elaborate. It says 3 future NFL starting quarterbacks, Tua, Hurts, Mac Jones. All right, and this comes off of, obviously, the big news today that the Patriots cut Cam Newton and Mac Jones is officially QB1. I said that, can you really call it 3 starting quarterbacks if we're not sure they're really starting quarterbacks, right? Which confused everybody because they're like, well, they're starting, are they not? So doesn't that make them start? That's not what I mean. Here's what I mean. Take Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, right? First off, we had to wait till today for Jalen Hurts to be named QB1, as if there was ever a question there. Okay, but Jalen Hurts, and to the same extent, where I'm going to go next with Tua, are kind of in the same basket because they've kind of been swirled around the same name, and that is Deshaun Watson. Okay, and so here's where I'm going with this. If they are starting quarterbacks in the league, okay, most teams who have starting quarterbacks aren't talking to a team about getting a different starting quarterback. Okay, and if you have a starting quarterback where there is no questions about him being the starting quarterback, your head coach doesn't have to go out every day and be adamant that he is the starting quarterback, which is what Brian Flores continually has to do about Tua every day at Dolphins practice. Okay, so do I believe Tua is a starting quarterback in the NFL? Not with what I've seen so far. Do I believe that Jalen Hurts is a starting quarterback in the NFL? Not with what I've seen so far. Does he have a shot? Maybe, but I'm not sold yet. And Mac Jones, I haven't seen anything with Mac Jones. Mac Jones threw 1 TD pass in the preseason, and everybody's going nuts. Okay? Like, I need to see Tua throw the ball down the field. Okay? If Tua wants to show me that he can be a starting guard, I need to see him throw the ball further than 5 yards. That's number one. Okay? Because I don't think he can do it. Jalen Hurts had a nice little 6-game run there at the end of last year. Maybe would have beaten the team there at the end of the year if he wasn't taken out after the first half to screw the Giants out of the division. Yes, I'm still bitter. And let me see what Mac Jones does in a division that some people think the Patriots are back and can win right away. But, to call it 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, yeah, they're starting quarterbacks by definition. Do I think they're long-term starting quarterbacks? I'm not sold on any of the 3 right now.
Well, we talked about this as soon as Gardner Minshew got mentioned as coming to Philly. We both agreed that, Philly might have just traded for their starter. We both weren't sold on Jalen Hurts at that moment. Of the 3, I think Mac Jones has the highest upside. I think that Jalen Hurts is probably serviceable. I think he's more somebody I would probably compare to like a Teddy Bridgewater as far as he can play, he can game manage, he's not going to make or break a game for you, but he's serviceable. And Tua's that guy where it's just like, what are we doing? Like, he's got to prove it. He's got to show something. And I think now that Flores kind of got him a wide receiver that he's comfortable with, that he knows really well in Jalen Waddle, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Like, if he can't succeed with Waddle, he's not going to succeed at this level. Like, you have that connection, you already have everything built up and established with those two. So if they can't succeed together, he's done. Like, this will be his kind of make or break year. Miami will be looking for a quarterback next year. Jalen, I think, will probably play the entire season. He's probably going to put up decent numbers. I don't have him being like just this all-star breakout player, especially with Philly's offense. Philly's offense isn't great. They have some tools, but not enough to really put him over the top. So I think he's serviceable, but nothing more. Mac Jones, the best part about Mac Jones is what he has going on for him in New England is kind of what he had going on for him in Alabama to a different degree. The thing that makes New England and teams like New England, teams like the Buccaneers, teams like the Chiefs, they all do the same thing, just for different reasons. You never know where they're going to go with the ball. New England doesn't have anybody that's like a standout star, like, oh my God, this is the guy that we're going to throw to. They don't really have a wide receiver one that everybody talks about on a week-to-week basis. They don't have a Pro Bowl running back that everybody just gushes over. So Mac Jones can just distribute the ball wherever he wants to whoever's open, because defense isn't really double covering any one guy. They're covering everybody. So it gives him a little bit more wiggle room. He doesn't have to necessarily throw the ball downfield all the time. He doesn't have to make the big plays. So whereas with Alabama, he had guys like Waddle, he had Smith, he had Mechie, he had these guys that he could just throw to. They would get open, just made his life easy. New England's going to give him the diversity and ability to throw it wherever he wants and to whoever's open without worrying about getting that number one wide receiver, his stats and his money, and keeping the fans happy. So he has the best upside, and I think that the way he's willing to run Belichick's offense, and he's willing to run the team the way that Belichick likes, I think is the whole reason why Cam got dropped today. Cam's a very polarizing guy. He kind of goes off script quite a bit, and he has a lack of heart at times when things get tough. Mac Jones hasn't shown anything like that. I'm sure there's some stuff behind the scenes that we haven't seen going on within their camp that Belichick likes. So I'm confident and I'm hopeful. I don't necessarily see a huge year out of him either. I'm guessing all three of them are probably going to get within that 3,000 to 3,500 yards this year, with Tua being on the lowest end of that, probably the closest to 3,000. Mac Jones probably the closest to 3,500, and Jalen at about 33. So we'll see.
I was like, before I get to all the comments here from the chat, and there are a few, the Cam cut, which shocked everybody this morning, wasn't surprising at all. Belichick kind of made it known, and when Cam had this COVID miscommunication situation last week, it really, for lack of a better term, pissed them off. And that's what ultimately caused this. I mean, when Belichick came out and said, this opportunity opens the door for Mac Jones, that was Belichick's way of saying, if Mac doesn't completely shit the bed, I'm going with him. Like, I've had enough. Okay, like Cam wasn't doing anything that made him stand out, like it was still a 50-50 thing. So when Cam continues to be Cam, okay, and does something that looks even worse than the outfits he wears in these post-game interviews, it made it easy for Belichick to just say, get out. So not surprising. So here are the comments directed at you, Josh, during all of this. First off, the Alabama starting quarterbacks equal garbage. So that was one of them.
National championships.
You sound like a Yankees fan when you do that.
Yeah, and they're right too. National championships, World Series. They win. They do what they need to do.
I'll respond to half of this. So you were talking about Mac Jones' weapons and lack thereof. One person said Jacoby Myers.
Okay.
And somebody else said Damian Harris. And I want to jump on this one because all I've seen today is Damian Harris like, everybody going, oh, look, Damian Harris stock. When's the last time New England had a legit running back?
LeGarrette Blount? Marion
Yeah,
Barber?
kind of. I mean, what, you're going to throw James White at me? I mean, he was a receiving running back. I mean, they haven't had a guy that they continually hand the ball off to and is a workhorse. So pump the brakes on Damian Harris and being this, like, breakout star this year. No.
Also, just quick for all the people in the chat, I want them to tell me the last, other than Zach, because I'm sure Zach is going to throw Dak Prescott at me. No. Dak Prescott went to Mississippi State.
Yes.
Who came out of A&M? Johnny. Okay. Zach is probably going to say my quarterbacks are trash. He has Johnny Football, so there's nothing there. Everybody else in that chat, I want them to tell me which one of their college quarterbacks is a starter in the NFL right now. I have 3. They may not be great, but who do they have again?
All right, Chico. Corey Dillon is not a running back you want to throw in here right now as running backs for the Patriots. Stop. Corey Dillon was dead by the time he got to the Patriots.
Yeah.
I don't think Corey Dillon could run the football by the time he got to the Patriots.
No. It's Marion Barber. He's the last real running back they had.
No, I think you were right with the LeGarrette Blount.
Oh, LeGarrette Blount too.
Let's see what we got here. Zach has responded to you with Ryan Tannehill.
Okay. Ryan Tannehill, who almost died in Miami, got somehow picked up in Tennessee and has Julio to throw to. You're welcome. That's an Alabama boy too.
Julio will play 6 games. And Chico out here talking about Jake Plummer with that nonsense. So,
yeah, he was really good.
All right. One other thing here before we start getting into some previews. Urban Meyer is under some fire, and the Players Association is looking into the cuts that were made today because of some comments he made about vaccinations and wondering if there is some sort of connection between guys that weren't vaccinated and who was cut. As far as I'm concerned, I'm pro-Urban on this because, okay, we can debate the morality of cutting somebody because of whether or not they're vaccinated, but let's look at what the NFL has laid out here. If you can't get enough people to play, and if it turns out that you have a COVID outbreak because of somebody who wasn't vaccinated, you forfeit the game, okay? And your players don't get paid. So if I'm a guy in that locker room, okay, and I see him cutting guys that weren't vaccinated, okay, and I'm going to assume, because there were no names that popped up that I saw that were noteworthy, okay, so I would assume that's Erman basically showing his 53. I got your back. I'm not trying to put people in this room that are going to screw us down the line, okay? And if the Players Association has a problem with that, well, then don't set the rules the way you did.
Every NFL player should understand that a team can cut you for any reason that they deem necessary to cut you, pretty much. It's just like that in the real world, too. You can get fired tomorrow because your boss feels like it, okay? I think Urban's setting a good precedent. I haven't necessarily agreed with everything that he's done since he's been down there in Jacksonville. I thought it was interesting, like calling out the winners and losers and one-on-ones. Like, that was an interesting thing. I thought cutting Tebow was interesting because I thought the whole reason he was there was for marketing, and then you just cut him, which I didn't think he was worth being on the team anyway. Taking up somebody else's spot, I digress. I wish more teams were doing this, mine in particular, because the Vikings are still the least vaccinated team in the league, and it drives me insane. The fact that all of my quarterbacks don't have the vaccine and don't really seem to care. Kirk Cousins with the "if I die, I die," it's things like this that coaches need to look at the liability of it, like you were saying. Is this guy going to potentially cost me games down the road? And if he's not more valuable than losing a couple games, I need to get rid of this guy. So I like it. If the Players Association has a problem with it, like you said, don't agree to the negotiate. Don't agree to the contracts that you agreed to. Don't settle for what you have. I don't really want to get into a political or medical topics on like the whole COVID thing, but this is what you get. It's literally a definition of fuck around and find out. Some coaches are willing to let you find out, and some are not. So maybe some of these guys will most likely get picked up by teams that are a little bit more lenient. I applaud Urban for what he's doing. I have zero issue with it. And if at the end of the day the Jags get a win or two because they didn't have these guys on the team and they didn't have COVID and their team stayed healthy, good on them.
All right. So because we've got till next Thursday for actual NFL games, we're going to do one conference now, another conference next week, since we had the whole issue with me disappearing here for a bit. So you want to do NFC or AFC?
AFC.
AFC. All right.
We're both NFC, so let's save that for next week.
All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk each division. I'll tell you what everybody's laid out with odds-wise, and we'll also talk about the win totals as well and see what we like there. So let's start here with the AFC East. The Bills are obviously the favorite. They are minus 160. Dolphins and Patriots are both plus 350, and the Jets are exactly where they should be at the bottom at plus 2,500. I can't argue with the Bills being the favorite. I mean, the defense is legit. Josh Allen is getting a lot of hype for MVP, all of that. But I certainly don't have I'm not putting money on the Dolphins at 3.5. Not when I'm being led by Tua, and I don't think that Tua, is going to beat Josh Allen head to head, or even necessarily, I'm not even going to say Mac Jones, but Bill Belichick head to head. So, and I know it's been getting a lot of play from guys that are looking to get plus money. But if I'm going to take a stab at anybody else in that division, it's the Patriots, just based on the fact that they've got all of that defense coming back, and it is still ultimately Bill Belichick.
Couldn't agree more. Bills far and away are going to win that division. Belichick and the Patriots are kind of that, let's see what happens, but they have the best chance out of anybody. The Bills' offense and defense is pretty stacked. If Mac Jones is halfway decent, they're taking second place in that division, potentially a winning record. That's your best money if you're looking for a dog in that division. It is the Patriots. Who knows? Allen might get hurt. Diggs might go down. Any number of things could happen. So, yeah, Bills on top, Pats 2, Miami 3. What is the Jets win?
We're going to get to the win totals right now. We're starting with the Patriots. The Patriots number is 9.5. The over is plus money. So do you like the Patriots to win 10 games? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you would take the plus money over 9.5.
Yep.
That is a good number. 9-8, 10-7 is right around where I think the Patriots end up. So, I mean, if it was – see, they want to throw the half in there. If I can get a flat 9 somewhere, I'm more than happy to take the over, because then you get a free roll. If it's not, if it's 9-8, you push. The hook makes it iffy for me. I'm not looking at that. The Jets, the number is a flat 6.
Hammer the under.
The under is heavily juiced to minus 130.
Makes sense because it's accurate. They don't win more than 3 games.
The Bills, 11, juiced to the over.
I actually like them at 11, so I would probably take the under on that.
I think you can go either way on this. I think, like you said, I like 11. I think 11 is a solid number. I would probably play the over because I feel like I've got a better chance of them going 12-5 than I do of them going 10-7. So I'd probably play the over, and because it's a flat 11, I get a free roll there. Who am I? Oh, I haven't gotten to the Dolphins yet. Where are they? They put the Dolphins all the way at the bottom. Here we go. Dolphins 9.5.
Under. Absolutely under. I think they go 7-9. Or 7-10. Sorry, I think they go 7-10.
Yeah, Dolphins heavily juiced to the under at -150. I agree. I don't love the Dolphins this year. I don't think that they are, the second half Dolphins that we saw last year. Yeah, I'm not high on the Dolphins at all. But again, it's funny. I have a nickname for Chua. His name is Tua Two Pass, because that's about as far as the ball goes. So, all right. So there's the AFC East. Let's move to the AFC North. The Ravens are the favorite, +110. Browns a small second at +155. Steelers 5-1. Bengals 2,500. I'll be honest. I'm not in love with anybody in this division.
Nope.
The Ravens are a great regular season team, which is why they're the favorite. If the Browns weren't the Browns, I'd pound this, because on paper, the Browns should win the division. But then you remember that they are the Browns, and, they're going to ultimately find a way to screw this up. So based on all of that, if I'm going to advocate for you taking a shot, I've got to advocate on you taking a shot with the Steelers. Because remember, despite everything last year, they were undefeated for three-fourths of the year. Okay, and then they just had a horrible stretch run, and that was with Ben coming off of the Tommy John. So now you get Ben in the second year, and he has said that the arm feels way better, and I gotta assume that that's the case. I think the biggest thing the Steelers will have to adapt to offensively is last year. I think the idea that Juju is a wide receiver 1 is now gone. Nobody believes that. And I think because Claypool busted out in the way he did, Notre Dame, by the way, representing, I think teams will now focus on Claypool a little more, which will now kind of open up Juju a little bit. And maybe you get a little more of the Juju that you got, when AB was there. Your boy Najee there in the backfield, he is a big favorite amongst many to win Rookie of the Year. We know the Steelers like to run the ball, so Najee will get a lot of run. If Najee holds up his end in the back, Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the NFL. I can find many ways to advocate at taking 5-1 for the Steelers in a division that I can poke holes in basically everybody.
I would tend to agree with you. I think I would still go Cleveland on this one. And that's mainly because we really kind of have seen a change since Stefanski took over. I mean, I'm going to say that's credit to Minnesota getting rid of another coordinator that's just performing above and beyond what they were doing when they were with us. Mike Tomlin being in that conversation as well. So I like Cleveland. I agree that Cleveland's going to Cleveland at some point. I'm still not sold on Baker Mayfield being the guy in Cleveland. He's outperformed everybody else, and he's lasted longer, so good on him. That offense is pretty scary. That defense is so good. Mike Tomlin's got a defense. He's got an offense too. So the Steelers at like a 5-1 isn't bad. I don't hate it. It is a good bet. I like Cleveland to actually take the division, but it's honestly a toss-up between those three. Baltimore could run away with it. Steelers could go on another big 11-0 type run and then just die at the end and lose it. I think the only team that we can say for sure is not really in the running is the Bengals, and that may be only for 1 year. The Bengals next year could come out and really surprise people. I like a lot what they're doing. I think the receiving core is great. I think Burrow, if Burrow has fully recovered from the injury and he's playing up to par, is going to be pretty dangerous. I can see them getting a couple extra wins out of that. But I think far and away they're in last place. Then Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland on top for me.
I'll kill the Bengals in a minute. Let me get to their over-under before I do so. The Steelers over-under is 8.5. The over is actually plus money. I would totally take the over.
Absolutely.
Take the over. So, I mean, you're basically telling me that you're juicing it to them being a 8-9 team, that the Steelers aren't going to be 500. Tomlin has never had a season where they're not 500. And you're going to give me plus money? Yeah, all day. Okay, and we haven't gone through all these yet, but that might be my favorite. Might be. I mean, that seems like the closest thing to free money that we're going to get. Browns, even Vegas is split on the Browns because this is 110 either way, 10.5 on the Browns. I would take the under.
Yeah.
I would take the under. It feels like 10-7, maybe even 9-8 for the Browns. Like I said, I'm not the one sitting here thinking the Browns are about to, rise above the ashes and turn into and go to their inner LeBrons and make Cleveland great again. Not happening. So I would take the under there. The Ravens, the number is 11, slightly juiced to the under. Here's the thing. I can't get involved with anything with the Ravens because I don't know how many more times Lamar is going to get COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's gotten COVID more times than the American population.
It's not great. Not great at all.
So, if you're going to tell me that Lamar's playing 17, I might take the over, because 11, I feel like maybe it's probably a free roll, 11-6 being the low end.
Mm-hmm.
But, is he playing 14? Because then it's going to get real dicey. So, yeah, I don't want any part of that. The Bengals. Okay, so here we go. Let's get to the Bengals. 6.5. I'm taking the under. And here's why I'm taking the under. The Bengals had one thing to do this year. And that was coming off of last year in which Joe Burrow got killed. Protect Joe Burrow. By all means, by any means necessary, protect Joe Burrow. And you had a high draft pick to do so. And what did they do? They had Penei Sewell sitting there at number 4, who, by everybody's account, projects to be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. Okay, and would protect Joe Burrow and that ACL for the next 15 years. And instead, they went and got, by the way, the Bengal receiving core was good already. And then they went and got Jamar Chase because, he used to play with Joe Burrow. And guess what? I've caught more balls than Jamar Chase has this preseason. Okay, so while Jamar Chase is running routes, defensive lines are going to be using that turnstile that the Bengals are calling an offensive line, and Joe Burrow could get killed again. So, what? Because of that, I think they're going to win 7 games or more? Hell no. Hell to the no. Are they going to be competitive? Sure. I saw Joe Burrow be competitive before he got killed last year. So, yeah, I don't have any doubts that they're going to be competitive, but winning football games when Burrow has to run for his life every damn snap? No, I'm not signing up for that.
Yeah, I would agree. The big thing there, too, you brought up Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell, the reports of him out of Detroit are not great right now. He is severely underperforming. So I don't hate on them for not taking him, but you had guys there like Christian Darrisaw, you had Rashawn Slater, you had other guys that you could have taken. Taking the Jamar Chase pick, I understand it. We're starting to see this a lot more where you have these rookie quarterbacks coming out, and now you want to kind of get them with a receiver that they played with. They have that connection. They have that chemistry already. So I see the logic behind it. But, I mean, you look at Jamar Chase, hasn't done anything in the preseason, now has a scandal coming out. Like, the kid's already a problem child. You have Tyler Boyd. You have T. Higgins there already. You have some dominant receivers. Your receiving core is already good. Joe doesn't need more receiving weapons. You have to protect him. Hopefully, this line has some kind of improvement. If they improve to where he can get at least 2 seconds in the pocket instead of like the second and a half that he's been getting, you're going to see some improvement because he does know how to get the ball out quick. I also would take the under on that, though. I don't see them winning 7 games. I have them right at around 5. I have them winning about 5 games this year. So they might steal one. They might steal one from Baltimore, like you said, if Lamar's out. So it's tough. It's a toss-up there. I agree with you on the over for Pittsburgh. I think, what was it, 8 or 8.5? Either way. I have them, 8.5. Either way, I'm taking the over on that. That's free money. Baltimore at 11, I would take the under as well. Cleveland, 10.5 is rough. I'd probably take the under because I have them at about 10 games. Potentially could go over. That one I'm pretty split on, but yeah, it's a tough division overall. The AFC North and the NFC North are both tough divisions when it comes to where they're going to end up. I mean, the NFC North we'll get to next week, but yeah, it's tough. It's a 3-way race, and it could go any way, any week. And I think you brought up a very good point with Lamar Jackson and COVID. If Lamar gets COVID and has COVID throughout the season, there's no way they win. If he stays healthy and plays all 17 games, I think that they could potentially take it. So we'll see.
All right, let's move to what we call the Zach division, the AFC South. And I'll just be upfront. There's really no betting edge here. The Titans are minus 115. The Colts are plus 150. Jacksonville's plus 650. And then the Titans are 30 to 1. I mean, you want to advocate for taking the Colts. Okay, that's fine. I mean, you want to believe in the Carson Wentz resurrection. I mean, you can do so. But at plus 150, there's not enough money there for me to jump on it. And I'm not sold on the Colts overtaking the Titans anyway. So Titans at 115, I think that's pretty cheap, and I would take that right away as far as the division because, frankly, I mean, outside of the Colts, the Jaguars and the Texans aren't going to be of any concern.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the Titans division to lose. If anybody is going to take it from them, it could be the Colts. Highly unlikely. I mean, we're already seeing issues with Carson Wentz. Quentin Nelson went from having the same injury that Carson Wentz did to now also having COVID. So that's tough. When their defense has improved, they have Naheem Hines, they have Jonathan Taylor, they still have T.Y. Hilton. So they still have all the weapons, and if they can
T.Y. Hilton hasn't played in 4 years.
Exactly. But when he is on and is playing, he's really good. They don't have much behind him, though, in the receiving core. So, I mean, it's kind of a tough get for them. I could see them pulling it together just on the backs of Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines. I don't see them competing at the same level as Tennessee, though. I mean, you have Taylor Lewan back now, so their offensive line's been bolstered. Derrick Henry gets a little bit more love. He's going to get over 2,000 rushing yards again this season, I'm pretty sure. Even though you said Julio's probably only going to play 6 games, that 6 games is going to be really all they need, and they're probably going to be at the end of the year. You're looking at kind of a Percy Harvin situation with that, and that's really all they need to get a playoff push going. If he's healthy for the playoffs, they don't care how many regular season games he gets. They're going to win without him. They don't need him. It just makes him more scary come playoff time. Let's see. Who else we got down there? Jacksonville. Interested to see that. I mean, they have some good players down there. You still have DJ Chark. You still have J-Rob. You have ETN and Trevor Lawrence coming in together.
You don't have ETN. He's done for the year.
Oh, that's right. He's done for the year. My bad. So never mind. Don't have to worry about him. J-Rob's taking it. Helps me out a lot in fantasy football. I'm interested to see. That's a development team. I think that they probably take third place just because Houston is still just in shambles, trying to figure out the whole Deshaun Watson thing. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
let's go down that Texans rabbit hole. The over/under for them is a flat 4, not juiced either way. I'll tell you this right now: they're not winning 4 games. They're not winning 4 games. Their plan is to leave Deshaun Watson. Here's the thing: the NFL is botching this. Okay, they suspended Tom Brady for not handing over a phone, but because we're not doing anything legally until after the new year with this Deshaun Watson thing, they're just going to keep it in limbo and keep the Texans in basically a no-win situation where if we put them out on the field, we're going to have to answer questions. If we don't put them on the field, we're going to have to answer questions. So the Texans' plan is to keep him on the 53-man roster because they don't have any other option. And they are going to make him inactive every week. So essentially he's going to get paid to not play, which I can't blame him for because they don't have any other option unless Goodell finally stepped up and did something, which they don't do. It's not like MLB where they have an exempt list that they can put you on a la Trevor Bauer when you're a naughty boy and we don't want you anywhere near the field of play. But because of that, because you don't have Deshaun Watson or for that matter, any skill players at all, they're not winning 4 games. Like, outside of a team that we will cover next week, they might be the best, if not the second best bet for the team to go winless this year, because I find it hard to find them winning any game. Like week 1 is their best shot.
Yeah, it's. I have to agree. I have them maybe winning 2 games. If they're smart, that's more than they'll risk winning. Like they might pull off a tank. They might try and do what Jacksonville and the Jets were doing last year. So I had them at about 2. So I like the under on that as well. I don't see any way. Tyrod Taylor's decent. There's nothing wrong with Tyrod. Tyrod's another serviceable guy. He's not going to win you games. He's not going to lose you games. But the rest of that team, he doesn't have any support. He doesn't have any weapons. He has nothing to go on. So very, very low chance of them winning anything. I don't think they go winless. I think they get 2 just on a fluke or something, but not much more than that.
As our Texan lover here says, that we might beat Jacksonville. Yeah.
You might.
Week 1 is your best chance because when you come around the second time for Jacksonville, once Jacksonville's had a little time and T-Law's played a few games, you're not beating them the second go-around. Okay? Like, I think the line for week 1 is 3. There's no way that whenever they play the second time, that line will be that low.
No.
No shot. So, and by the way, spoiler alert, if it stays at 3, I'm taking the Jaguars.
100%.
No shot. The Jaguars have more skill players than the Texans have had in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, all right. Speaking of the Jaguars, their over/under is 6.5. I believe it is juiced to the over. It is under is -150.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, I would take the under. Them getting the 7 and 10 would be a huge accomplishment. Urban Meyer might get coach of the year if somehow they pulled off 7 to 10. But they're not, with the Etienne lost already and that defense that has some pieces, but it's not, they're still trying to piece that together. Plus, here's the better bet. Okay. Because there's a lot of uncertainty with Jacksonville right now. Okay. And before that game against the Cowboys, who, if you've watched the preseason, the Cowboys are making everybody look good. The first couple of weeks of the preseason, Jacksonville was not looking good at all. The over-under for what week Urban Meyer has a medical issue. Because if they get out to like 0-5, 0-6, or well, we'll give them the win against the Texans. So 1-5, 1-6, Urban's ticker might start hurting.
Yeah. What is the over/under on that? I wonder.
I got to put it at week 8. I got to just toss it in the middle.
I would take the under on week 8. I'd take the under.
All right. Titans and Colts, interesting enough, both have the same number, which is 9. The Titans are heavily juiced to the over. Colts are not heavily, but are slightly juiced to the under. Obviously, I would take over 9 with the Titans. I think they win this division. I think they probably get to 10 wins at least. The Colts 9, so 9 wins puts them at 9-8. I feel like I got to take the over there because 9-8 feels like a pretty sweet spot for them to end up in. So you take the over at even money. If they somehow squeak out 10, you're good. If not, you probably get a push. If you lose, well, then the Colts sucked like we had a feeling they might. And, that's that. The chat is week 6 for Urban Meyer's medical issue, by the way, week 6.
I would agree. I think week 6 is probably accurate. I like Titans over. I think they go 12-5 this year, honestly, if not 13-4. I also like the Colts over. I think that they get about 10 games. I think 10-7 is a good spot for them. 9-8 probably at the worst. They do have the pieces to get that many wins. They get to play the Texans twice, so just on that alone, I could see them getting the over.
Finally, we get to what we'll call the mustache division here for our chat. The AFC West, the Chiefs are the heavy favorite, obviously, -250. Chargers +450. Teddy B and the Broncos at 6-1, and then the Raiders heavily up the rear at 22-1. It's really hard to sit here and advocate for not taking anybody that's not led by Aaron Rodgers. Very, very difficult to do. But for the sake of me trying to point you in a plus money situation, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say the Chargers is the only team I would advocate you doing this with. And you give me that look because, the Chargers kind of fall in that Cleveland Brown territory of they're the Chargers. But here's why I'm going to try and advocate for the Chargers, because the Chargers' problem the past few years has been Anthony Lynn. Okay? If Anthony Lynn could find a way to lose a football game, he found it. Anthony Lynn's not there anymore. Herbert, who I was a large advocate for coming out of Oregon, obviously blew up last year. I think you have to expect some regression. It's very, very hard to expect him to have the same type of year that he did last year, with that. Eckler being healthy obviously will help them immensely. You hope that for once that defense can be healthy. Having Bosa and having everybody there. I mean, that's been the Chargers' biggest issue is they're never healthy, especially on the defensive side. So, Joey Bosa and J.J. Watt might as well be the same person with the amount of games that they play. So, like I said, I'm not going to try and sit here and advocate hard for betting against Patrick Mahomes, but if I am, it's going to be the Chargers because they've got, at least on paper, they've got the pieces to do it. And if they're healthy, they could, but can they be healthy?
See, I thought you were going in a different direction. That's why I gave you that look. I thought you were going to say the Broncos was the way to go.
Oh, hell no. You're the Teddy B lover here, not me.
First of all, it's not even Teddy B, okay? It's because I'm an Alabama lover. And they have Jerry Jeudy, and they have Patrick Surtain, and they have looked unbelievable, as I've talked about this entire preseason. Teddy B be damned. I love Teddy B. But even with Drew Lock, the way that he was playing, we said it multiple times. They were playing about even. The fact that Teddy got the starting job kind of shocked me. I was like, didn't see that coming. I approve. I'm okay with it. That team is really good, man. They have all the pieces. They have better pieces, in my opinion, other than quarterback, than the Chargers for me. I see them being competitive in that division. I can see them beating out the Chargers and being second best in there. It's going to be an interesting battle, though. Herbert may pull it off just because he is the better quarterback. He can win those games that Teddy can just manage to not get away from him. But like you said, injuries. If the Chargers can stay healthy, they're a contender. If they can't stay healthy, they're third place, easy in that division. Denver has talent, young talent and old talent on both sides of the ball. They have the ability to beat you in multiple ways. They can turn the ball over. They can change games with defense. They have the ability to make big plays on offense. They have guys that can hurt you anywhere on the field. So I really think that like at a 6-1, that's good money. That's about as good money you're going to get in that division other than the Chiefs. Chiefs, I think, win it hands down. Denver is going to be the surprise of that division. They're going to come out, and we'll get to the wins here in a minute, but I think Denver's got the best chance. If something goes wrong in Kansas City, it's Denver.
All right, well, here, let's get to the Denver win prop so I can go into my Denver rant.
Sure.
So the Denver win prop is 8.5. It is heavily juiced to the over at -150. I think the juice is right because I think, you're telling me 8.5 heavily juiced to the over. So you're saying, that you expect them to finish over 500, which I agree with. 9 and 8 get you the over, whatever. Here's why I can't advocate for Denver winning the division. All right. And everything you said, I can't argue with on, they have pieces on both ends. I would argue that the Denver defense gets hurt as often as the Chargers defense. Look at Chubb and all that, but that's neither here nor there. Here's my issue with the Broncos and why the Broncos were so heavily mentioned before Aaron Rodgers finally said, just gave it up and went back, is because this was a battle for so long between Locke and Bridgewater, because despite all the things that drives you nuts with Drew Lock, Vic Fangio knows that offensively, the ceiling is so much higher if you could unlock Drew Lock. Okay? The ceiling is not high with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is the ultimate game manager. He's a great one at that. Okay? But Teddy Bridgewater is not the guy that I necessarily want in an offensive gunfight. And that's what you have in this division. Okay? You're going to be asking a lot of that defense to try and contain the Chiefs, the Chargers, okay? And despite all their flaws, the Raiders still have a good offense, okay? And you're going to be asking that defense to try and limit them as much as possible so that Teddy B can keep you in the game. Because if you're getting into the high 30s, low 40s every week, Teddy B's not going to be able to keep up. I'm sorry. That's not who Teddy B is.
You have a point there. That's true. I'll be the first one to say that, I think Kansas City, hands down, is going to take that division. And I've said it multiple times too. Teddy B's not the guy that's going to win any of the games. He's just going to keep you in the game. And if you put pieces around him, he can hold. I feel like we just differ on the defense. Yes, they can get injured, but I see more potential and more big playability and more flashes of excellence out of them than I do anybody other than the Chiefs in that division. I don't think it's even close, though, with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes would have to go down. Tyreek Hill would have to go down for multiple weeks. Even Edwards-Helaire would have to go down for multiple weeks for these guys to really be in any sort of real danger of losing this division. I have them at around 12, 13, maybe even 14 wins. So I'm sure their line is probably at like 11.5 is what I'm guessing.
You're close.
Is it 12?
12 and a half.
Fuck. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, they're not giving you the free roll on 12. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, bastards. But that's tough. I see them right around 12, 13. With COVID, I would probably lean on the under just to be safe, but I'm sure they probably have the under juiced if I were to guess.
No, under is plus. Oh yes, under is juiced. Under is juiced. So
yeah.
So while somebody in our chat is telling us to pump the brakes on the Raider compliments, we'll dive into the Raiders. Their over under is 7, and again, I gotta take the over. The over is slightly juiced at -120. And listen, you can hate on Chucky Gruden all you want, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and try and tell you that the Raiders have a defense, because they certainly don't. That thing has got as many holes as Swiss cheese. But the Raiders can put up points. Gruden keeps them in games, and I don't have to get to 500 to hit this bet. Okay, they could be 8 and 9, and I hit. So even if they're 7 and 10, I push. I don't think they're going to be complete garbage. I'm not asking them to compete for the division. I'm just asking them to hover around being average, which is what I think they absolutely are. So I'm going over on the Raiders.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think at that line, the over is the way to go. Like you said, they're probably, if they're 7 and 10 or even an 8 and 9 team, I can't say that that's not going to happen. They do have pieces. I mean, who knows? Hunter Renfrow being the wide receiver that he is on the Raiders, he's the most all-around and complete guy that they have. We know that the Davises love speed, so you've got Henry Ruggs. If Ruggs can actually get back to the way that he was at Alabama and perform relatively close to that, he's going to be serviceable, he's going to be good, and he could really shine this year. So I can see that. Josh Jacobs has been stout for them in the backfield. So the issue with them really isn't the offense or the weapons that they have on offense. It's really just the quarterback play. The quarterback play is very similar to what we're going to talk about next week with a lot of these NFC quarterbacks that have kind of just been middle of the road and nothing flashy. So I think they just don't have that pop to get them over the 500 mark, to get them on the positive side there. But 7 and 10, 8 and 9 isn't a bad way to go. I would probably take the over as well.
But at least the chat is active about this Raiders line. So, what do we got here? Somebody said, did they go to sleep making the over under at 7? We have let's see here. We have obviously our Raider fan here is talking about the Raiders winning more games than they ever will, and our chief fan is trying to tell us to pump the brakes on all these AFC West teams. So he'll be very upset when I tell him that the Chargers win total is 9.5, and I'm rolling over, baby. Rolling over.
Interesting. 9.5.
Because 9.5 tells me by the under, I got to take them being 9 and 8, which is a win over 500. And I'm sitting here telling you that I advocate for the Chargers winning the division. So if I'm going to advocate for them to win the division, I'm certainly going to advocate for them to win double-digit games. Okay, and the only thing that trips me up there is what we were talking about, which is injuries. Okay, which I can do that with every team we bring up. All right, that is the built-in thing that comes in every bet. So I've got to play it for what it is on paper. I'm going to assume that the Chargers will not be hit by an asteroid and everybody will die within 5 seconds. So I'm going to roll over, and I think 10 is easy to get to.
Yeah, I would agree. I like the over only because it's 9.5. You get that kind of free throw in there. So I think 10 games is definitely feasible. 9-8 is probably where I'm sitting with them. But if I get that free chance and they somehow pull out 10 games, I like the over. So yeah, I would take that too. Still think the Broncos are taking second in that division, but it's not outrageous to bet an over 9.5 on the Chargers.
All right, so that's it for the AFC. We've gone through the divisions. We've gone through everybody's over-unders. We'll do NFC next week. This show has gone on way longer than normal thanks to the issue that I had earlier. But this seems to be like a good spot. You can't see me real well, but you can hear me and all the important stuff. And seeing me isn't all that important. So
true.
So the last thing we're doing is for whoever in here. Whoever in the chat, the active chat over here, used to listen to my old show, something I did there was at the end of every show, we had a segment in which both of us took a topic that we didn't necessarily cover in the show, and we just ranted about it. Never really came up with a great name for it. Me and you can work on that, I guess. I didn't give it any thoughts. But I'm pretty sure you know what my rant is going to be about since I put it right here on the ticker. So I will let you go first.
Okay. I kind of already talked about mine with the boxing match this weekend. But I'll elaborate again just so you can get your say on it. I feel like after the boxing match with Woodley and Jake Paul, that it is time for MMA fighters to stop getting involved. One MMA fighter be moderately successful in boxing, and he's not even in the UFC. And the UFC guys are the only ones that are getting any kind of looks. I mean, Michael Venom Page has fought actual boxers. He's gone over to boxing, but he's fought guys that were relatively new, just like him. They're still learning, but they're pros. And he's done well. He's got a couple wins under his belt. But I do not care about Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz in a fucking boxing match. I don't care about Vitor Belfort fighting Oscar De La Hoya. I don't care about any MMA fighter fighting a boxer in a boxing match. We've seen how that works now. Conor McGregor set it up for all these guys to make all this money and to get everybody moved over, and he fucked them at the same time because the sport of MMA is suffering for this. People are just talking all kinds of shit about how mixed martial arts fighters aren't real fighters, boxing's better, trying to keep that alive when every single one of them knows any boxer that comes over to MMA is getting destroyed in 30 seconds or less. We've seen it before, it'll happen again. So we need to just use the opportunity of what these guys have made, the Tyron Woodleys, the Ben Askrens, what Anderson Silva and Tito are going to make, what Vitor is going to make. The fact that they're going to make this money in boxing, they need to use it as leverage against Uncle Dana, against Scott Coker. They need to use this to get better contracts and more money, because you can start seeing these MMA guys go as pressuring more for it. That's why Dana White hates it so much. That's why he doesn't like talking about it. That's also why you see the guys like Jake Paul and Logan Paul talking about fighter pay. Everybody knows it's messed up. So take this as the opportunity, take the small win and being able to potentially get paid more and use that as leverage against Dana and stop taking boxing matches.
Okay, I got a lot of ways I can take this. Number one, yeah, it was a lot easier for Dana when the washed up guys would just go to Bellator. Because that used to be it. Boxing was never the avenue until Connor kind of opened the door for everybody on that one. I would say, again, I told you all week, okay, you were like, oh, I'll put all the money on Woodley. No, don't put the money on Woodley. Okay. Paul is specifically picking these guys out for the reason. And Paul actually got a little more than he bargained for with Woodley, because Woodley got him a couple of times real good. But it's weird. I think for an MMA guy, you stun a guy in MMA, or knock a guy down, then you just go and hammer fist until the ref waves you off. Woodley almost appeared like he wasn't sure what to do when he got Paul stunned. Like he didn't push forward, he didn't do anything. So, I think that's a little thing. But as far as, this, stop letting MMA guys go to boxing and I don't want to see it. That's your fault. MMA guys and MMA fans should not be following these MMA guys to boxing, okay? Boxing is pulling the MMA guys because boxing has been a dying sport for decades, and they're trying to use any name notoriety that they can get to try and elevate it back, because there is no, Mike Tyson, there is no Lennox Lewis, there is no Oscar De La, there's no name in boxing, okay? What the Klitschko's are going to get you running to the TV right now? No, they're not. So, I mean, it has been a long time since boxing has had, a guy or a group of guys that made boxing relevant on, a daily level. So, yeah, they are taking anybody they can get from the MMA side that has any sort of name notoriety left to throw them in there, whether it's a YouTuber or a guy who hasn't fought in 20 years and a De La Hoya or whoever, and throw them in a boxing match. Because guess what? People will watch boxing. Boxing becomes relevant again for 20 minutes. Okay? And any sign of life that boxing can get, boxing will take right now. So, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world for boxing to be doing this. And if you're an MMA schmuck who keeps going and watching it and goes, why the hell are they doing that? Because you're an idiot and you keep going over there. Okay? It's like stay on your side of the fence. MMA is all you. You love MMA. You love everything they do there. Okay? So stay on that side of the fence. When they go on that side, don't go over there, because you're not going to like what you want to see, and that's exactly what they want, because they know you're going to cross over. So it's working out perfectly for boxing. And like I said, if you're the MMA guy who's going, this is stupid and it makes no sense, blah, 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 that's because you're the idiot that keeps crossing over and watching it, which is exactly what they're asking you to do.
Yeah, and I kind of covered that in the time when you were off. That's kind of exactly what I said too. I brought up exactly that with Woodley, where it's like, dude, you had him up against the ropes, he was done, and that's why Jake Paul retired this morning on Twitter. So I definitely see your points there, and I agree. The first thing I said was I didn't watch the fight, I didn't buy the fight, and I even said, as we were getting the recap from Chico in the chat, I was like, oh God, if this goes all 8 rounds, they're giving it to Jake Paul. I didn't see it going split decision. I thought they were going to hand it to him outright. The only one I ever paid for was McGregor Mayweather, just because it's like, yep, I was intrigued by that. That was interesting. I liked the trash talk, and I wanted to see where it was going to go. Knew wholeheartedly, even when we had that podcast back in the day, that Conor didn't have a chance. But I told you it was going to be if he hits him early and one of the first couple of rounds, he's got it. Anything past that, it's all Mayweather. I will not watch it. I will not entertain it. I will talk about it because I'm forced to at this point, because you do have those MMA guys who are still going to go out there and run their mouth. If they were elite level boxers to the point where they could beat these guys that they're going out and fighting against, they would be in boxing. They wouldn't be in MMA. I do want to challenge you on the whole, there's no names in boxing right now, and that boxing is a dying sport. It was up until about 2-3 years ago. I thought it was basically dead. And it wasn't even McGregor Mayweather that brought it back. It was Tyson Fury that brought it back. I mean, he beat the Klitschko's. Everything in boxing right now is talking about him versus Deontay Wilder again. They're talking about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua too. And you still have Canelo. Canelo's big. You still have Triple G. You have big names.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll give you that. You're right. I kind of overlooked Fury because Fury and Wilder has been a big enough thing to draw people in. I also think that because of especially the second Fury Wilder fight, there's going to be a third one, obviously, and people will come for the third one. The third one is so unnecessary at this point. Okay? The whole idea of a trilogy is that it was 1-1. This wasn't 1-1, okay? Wilder made the excuse after fight one that he came out with that stupid getup, okay? got his ass whooped, and then said, "Oh, well, the costume weighed me down and I was tired." Well, you're the idiot that put it on. Okay, you probably should have tried it out beforehand, and instead of telling me you were tired. So then he comes out for the second fight and loses again. So yeah, there's no need for a third fight. I mean, people will watch, and I guess the Wilder side will cling to the hope of a victory, but even if he wins, then what? What does it matter? I mean,
It's
what? Then we get a fourth fight?
No,
I mean,
it's a Joshua
no.
fight.
The Canelo thing, I'd like to see Canelo fight somebody worth a damn. I don't feel like Canelo's ever gotten. I can't tell you the last time the Canelo got in a ring, in a match against somebody where I thought Canelo would actually be tested. Somebody brought up Anthony Joshua. There's another guy. Like, who's Anthony Joshua fighting?
Anthony Joshua got beat by Ruiz.
Yeah, exactly. By Ruiz, who looked like he worked at the Quick Stop.
Yeah.
So Anthony Joshua was not forcing me to do anything. So,
but Deontay Wilder, you got to remember that first fight. The excuse he came out with his outfit was the second fight. So he actually wore a gold version of that outfit for the first fight. And the reason why they wanted to do the trilogy was because of that knockdown in the final round where Fury just barely got back up. Had Fury not been able to get up within that last second of the 10 count, I mean, he had that fight won based on that knockout. Fury was beating him on the card, but they had to go to a draw, I think, because of that knockdown. The second one, Fury came out, had been training again for a while. We saw him in true form, and he made Wilder look terrible. But Wilder's the American face of boxing right now. So you have Tyson Fury who wants to fight.
Which is why we have to have a third fight and pray to God that he can win, because if he doesn't, then what does America have to cling to? Not a damn thing.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that. You had Mike Tyson, who was just a stalwart forever. And you had Muhammad Ali, who's an American, and you had your George Foremans and your Joe Lewises. You have all these guys from America. What people need to start realizing is that boxing has become so much more international now. I mean, one name we didn't even bring up, Vasily Lomachenko. Like, there's all these guys outside of the U.S. now that are big names. And they're going to use the American market, so they're going to use Wilder to get themselves more famous, to keep us actively engaged with it. You're hoping that Wilder has a good show and can put it to Fury and keep it interesting. But if Wilder wins, he gets the Joshua fight. If Fury wins, he gets the Joshua fight. They're going for that heavyweight title unification. We haven't had that in so long. So that's really the big prize here. And then we can get into, how long are they going to stay on top? But we've seen Fury struggle with guys that had no business struggling with. So it's a lot of up and downs, but you do have those names to at least keep it relatively interesting. The boxing world is going to reach out to the YouTubers because they're just a new fan base, and they hope
somebody in the chat said, "Isn't Mike Tyson still the face of boxing?" And I would argue, yeah, probably.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. How dare you for saying that?
All right. So let's get to mine.
Yep.
All right. And it's obvious where I'm going with mine. Okay. Because God forbid, as a Mets fan, I can have one season where there is not something that happens that is just ridiculous or stupid or whatever. Okay. Like, I thought the new ownership might change things, but obviously it hasn't, because we pretended we were good for 5 months and now, thank God we're playing the Marlins to win some games again. So let's get to Javi Baez, who's been a Met for all of 15 minutes, who has a problem with fans booing him and teammates because the team is losing. This wasn't Jacob deGrom. This wasn't Michael Conforto. This wasn't anybody who's actually been a Met for some time. This was Javi freaking Baez, okay? Who, let us not forget, traded for at the deadline because they panicked because Lindor got hurt. And instead of going and getting the things they needed, like, I don't know, a third baseman or a starting pitcher because they knew DeGrom was hurt already and they just wouldn't admit it, or a reliever or anything that could have helped the damn team, they went and got a shortstop, okay, that they didn't need. So Javi Baez was gotten at the deadline, played like 3 games before he got hurt himself and just got back like last week. And now him and Lindor, who also just got back, okay, now come up with this thumbs down thing because if the fans want to boo when we're performing badly, then they don't get to celebrate when we're winning. Who the hell are you, Javi Baez? What, they didn't boo in Chicago? I'm pretty sure they booed a hell of a lot before you won a damn World Series. Okay? Can I hear it from a guy who's been in New York for longer than 5 minutes? I mean, even Lindor. Okay, I'm married to Lindor for a damn decade. Okay, he didn't say anything. Kevin Pillar's a bench guy. Okay, and as much as I like Kevin Pillar, like, what the hell are you doing involved in this? But here's the problem. My manager, Luis Rojas, who I hope the hell is fired, has no idea what's going on. He's like, I didn't know about it. Way to know what's going on in the clubhouse. Good job there. Then, on top of that, okay, I've got to have Sandy Alderson come out and tell him you can't do that. I've got to have my owner come out and tell him you can't do that. Who was in the clubhouse? Where's the leadership to have a meeting and tell them you morons can't go to the fans and tell them what they can and can't do? Okay, I am a Met fan. I hate the Yankees with a passion. I hate Derek Jeter for all that he is worth. Here's a thing from Derek Jeter in 2004 when he was batting 197. I don't blame them. We would have booed ourselves tonight too. It's hard to imagine being worse than what we were tonight. Put me at the front of the list. That's called accountability. Something apparently the Mets don't fucking have. It's ridiculous. Javi Baez, who got cheered, by the way, when he scored the winning run in a ninth inning comeback that, thank God it was the Marlins because they wouldn't have done it against anybody else, okay, got cheered. All right, and then before the game, he apologized. He said, I didn't mean to offend anybody. You offended yourself, you schmuck, okay? There's no way in hell, all right, I don't think they would have resigned him anyway. This did him a favor because there's no way in hell, minus him hitting a walk-off in Game 7 of the World Series, they'd ever think about re-signing him. Get the hell away from me. Okay, Lindor needs to realize this is in Cleveland. This is New York, okay? When you do good, we're going to cheer for you. When you suck, we're going to let you know, okay? It's New York. Everybody has gotten booed. Mike Piazza got booed. Patrick Ewing got booed. I bet you Joe Namath got booed. Everybody has been booed at some point in New York. It's what happens. It happens everywhere. I bet you in Minnesota you boo. It happens. Shut the hell up. Don't give me the thumbs down. You know exactly where you can shove that thumb, Javi Baez.
This makes me so happy. Because, I mean, I love it on so many different levels. But the one thing that I would challenge you on is I'm not actually mad at Javi Baez for giving the fans a thumbs down. I'm really not. And the only reason I'm not mad about it is because I love him embracing kind of the heel. Like, he's got that fuck you attitude, and I kind of appreciate that. I don't have an issue with him like, oh, you want to cheer me now because we had a good day, we got to win, you want to cheer? No, thumbs down to you guys. You've been booing me since I got here. Like, I'm not going to tolerate your fickle attitude. Like, okay, all right, if that's the way that you want to be, you need to embrace that and you need to run with it. Where he messed up was as soon as he apologized, as soon as ownership kind of stepped in. And it's such a Wilpon thing to do. Like, I thought you had new ownership. I didn't know the same guys just came back with different faces on. Like, if you're the ownership, you don't come out and be like, do not throw thumbs down at the fans. Like, you can't do that. Like, no, please embrace this. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you need. If he's holding that grudge based on things like that, it's like, oh, okay, you want to boo me when I'm bad, but you're going to cheer for me when I'm good. It's his transition that's kind of been difficult. But I think that if he just embraced it, it could have kind of brought about a changing of the guard, a changing of a little attitude. You could have had the thing that like the Yankees never had. I mean, the Yankees have been a heel for every team outside of New York, but the New Yorkers that support the Yankees are diehards, and they boo. And they boo their guys when they aren't playing well. Like you said, Derek Jeter has the accountability. But if Javi Baez wants to be that guy where it's like, no, I'm going to throw thumbs down at you. Like you boo me, I'm going to boo you too. All right. That's the way you want to play it. Game on. Like that's fine. That's how we work now. The moment you come out and say, oh, I didn't want to offend anybody, please, I want to keep my job, I want to keep my paycheck. Now you messed up. That's where the real fault in this is.
Okay. So here's my counter to that. First off, to who was that? Zach saying it's very Bryce Harper attitude. I told you there's no Bryce Harper mentions on the show today. Okay, we had enough Bryce Harper last week. The thing I'll give Javi credit for is he was at least upfront about it. All right, he didn't hide behind it. He said what it was. It wasn't like I think it was Lindor and McNeil earlier in the year. They essentially got in a fight down the tunnel of the dugout. And then when they were asked about it post-game, they said there was a squirrel or a raccoon or they couldn't figure it out or some horse shit that was like nobody bought. Okay, instead of just saying, there was a situation, we handled it, it is what it is. Okay, nothing that you guys need to know. As far as Javi being the heel, yeah, Javi's always been he was the heel in New York. I mean, him and Amir Garrett have a fight every time, they face off with each other. I mean, we had the whole thing. His last game, I think it was literally his last game as a Cub. He hit the walk-off against Garrett, basically talked the entire way to first base and then had to be separated after the run scored, that kind of thing. So Javi's always had that. Here's the thing he doesn't grasp. You want to be the heel, you want to have the swagger, that's fine. You don't have the credibility here yet you had in Chicago. You could have did all of that in Chicago. You had a ring in Chicago. What have I gotten in New York? I've gotten a handful of games. I've gotten strikeouts with guys, a couple of home runs. I've gotten like one clutch hit. Okay? You don't want me to boo? You want to have the swagger and tell me to fuck off? Fine. Do something that tells me to fuck off. By all means, shove it right up my ass. I want to win games, plain and simple. I had a time of my life for 5 months being the top of the division, and then it all went to shit. Okay? I'm not even going to make the playoffs minus a miracle run, which guess what, Javi? If you start doing things that can tell me to go screw myself, they could go on a run. So by all means, get all the swagger, do your thumbs down, give me the finger. I don't care what the hell you do to me. Get hits, drive people in, score runs, and win freaking ball games. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing we give a damn about. That's it. So you can do whatever you want if you're getting W's. Okay? If you're losing every day, guess what? Your swagger is as good as Connor's.
That billionaire strut does look good, though.
It was good until he got knocked out 800 times.
That's true.
I'll say. Now it just looks like Vince McMahon.
75 and broken.
Don't end on Vinnie Mac.
He's coming around on me.
Listen, okay? You know nothing about the wrestling world, so I won't.
No. I know real wrestling. You watch men in underwear perform a soap opera for 3 hours.
Well, first off, I don't have time to even attempt to watch it anymore, nor do I want to watch the garbage that they put on there anymore. But what I was going to say is I won't go down the road of how do I want to word this? When we were growing up,
the Attitude Era, yeah,
we had in the late 90s, you had the Monday Night Wars. You had your WWF and your WCW. And there was a choice. And then, Vince bought WCW, and for the longest time, there was no choice. You had little pop-ups here and there, but there was no quote-unquote competition. And now, for the first time since then, and in a way, because of Vince McMahon, they have competition, which is a interesting dynamic. But again, we'll dive into that. Bryce would be great in WWE. If he's fighting Jonathan Papelbon, he'd be great in WWE. Other than that, no, he wouldn't.
He's got the look. He's got the hair for it.
He'd certainly be a heel. We know that much. All right. So, anything else here before we say goodbye?
I'm tapped, dude. We've covered so much today. I'm surprised we still got the guys in the chat talking with us. So
that's because they have nothing better to do, pretty much.
Yeah,
they weren't talking in here. They'd be talking in the other chat. We know that.
That's true. I'll take them here. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for this week's show. It seems like moving forward, this dark area spot will have to be my spot because this appears to be the one that we can hear me on, and there won't be 800 glitches. So we'll stick with the dark corner. The chat did say that you look like you're recreating Office Space. We just need to get you the Red Milton stapler.
Ooh, we got jokes. All right, motherfuckers. All right.
So you got that going on for you. Maybe I'll get some better lighting next week. I don't know.
No. I like this light and dark aspect. You can play the heel.
Somebody in the chat said I do have a face for radio, and yes, I did work radio well before I ever did that. So yes, my face is made for radio. All right. So next week, we will do NFC divisions, over-unders. We will recap college football week 1. Obviously, a whole big day here. We've got our handful of games Thursday and then the big slate Saturday. I'm sure Josh will come on here and go on a 10-minute rant about whatever Alabama does to Miami. I fully expect that I'll be here and be able to talk about Notre Dame beating FSU, so we can do that. And then, we will we'll also have the week 1 games to preview next week as well. Pay attention to the Twitter. That is where me and Josh will post the picks. We already gave you our one pick for Thursday, which is the Ohio State Minnesota under. So there's the freebie on the show. I will not be putting that on Twitter. Listen if you want that one. But anything else, we will put on the Twitter, whether it be Thursday or Saturday. So you can do that. Other than that, me and Josh are in the process of creating the Facebook page. So that will be up here probably by the time the next show starts. So, but until then, subscribe to the Facebook page. I assume if you're in the chat, you already did that. But if you didn't, do it. And if you missed this, this one wasn't exactly a great one. But if you missed the live show, the podcast is up on iTunes, Spotify, all the places where you listen to that happy horse shit. So until next time, for the beard, Josh Hiltner, I am the Bookie Dan Siegel, and we will see you then.